Welcome to the Women Majoring in Marriage podcast with your host, Janice L. Vance. Girl, if you are a married woman that desires not just to have a surviving marriage, you know, the kind that's just on cruise control, but actually want a thriving marriage, you are in the right place. If you are engaged, this show can inspire you to prepare for your marriage before preparing for that expensive wedding day. Oh, and all my single ladies out there that are in their season of waiting on God to send your husband, we've got something for you as well. Girl, marriage is not hard, but it certainly is work. So relax, get your pen and paper, and let us major in marriage.
Well, hello to all of my queens, and welcome to the Women Major in Marriage podcast with yours truly, Janice Vance. I want to thank you, queens, for continuing to rock with me. I see you all watching my videos. I want you to know that I definitely appreciate you. And it's been a while since I've had a guest, and I have a very special guest that I never ever met in person, but reached out to me, and y'all not gonna believe where she's from. The Virgin Island. I am so privileged. I have before me Vanessa Farrell. She is from St. Croix, the Virgin Islands. She's a speaker. She's a best-selling author, a CEO, and founder of VI Health and Wellness Coaching, LLC, certified health and journal coach. I want to hear about that journal also. That journal, that sounds so interesting. She has a book. The name of the book is Delayed, Not Denied. The journey to singleness is worth the wait. And she used the acronym WAIT. We're going to talk about that. And hold your book back up one more time, Vanessa. Best-selling author. That is a good book, a good book. So I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa. I'm going to let her just have her way. I told her we're just going to sit here and chat as if she's sitting here on my sofa. And this episode, the title of it is Delayed, Not Denied. Delayed, not denied. Okay, Vanessa, have your way.
Right. So thank you so much, Janice, for having me. I am delighted to be here. And I know in trying to get the word out there, I reached out to a few podcasts, and I'm so delighted that you have invited me to be a part of this. As you said, yes, I am Vanessa Farrell. I live here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I am actually originally from the island of Montserrat. It's a small island off Antigua. About 5,000 people, or less than 5,000 people live on the little island, but that's where I was born and raised. And I moved to St. Croix when I was 18 years old. And then, as they say, the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, so in my work, I run a health and wellness coaching and consulting business where I work with women, especially women in leadership roles, to teach them the tips and skills around prioritizing their heart health and how to do so without apology. And talking about heart health, it really blends nicely into the book, which I have just written, came out in April of this year, which we will be focusing on during our time together. Delayed, not denied. The journey of singleness. It's worth the wait.
Wow. Awesome. So, Vanessa, how did you arrive at that title, Delayed, Not Denied? And then also worth the wait, because I think that's the biggest struggle of singleness. Waiting. You know, we get stuck in that biological clock. Oh, I'm about to turn 30 and I haven't gotten married, haven't gotten children. And, you know, I've been waiting this long. And what made you come up with that title?
Yeah.
Was that a challenge for you?
You know what? I had this title that was not the phrase was in the title, but it wasn't the first part of the book. The actual original title was Joyful Expectation. And I remember just talking to a few folks and, I remember one person saying like, it's just too many titles. Like that baby has too many names. You need to winner it. So it was joyful expectation, delayed, not denied. And well, I just take off that first part of it. And that's where I landed with a delayed, not denied. So it was a part of the original title, but not the first part. And I just love where I landed on delayed, not denied.
Yes.
The journey of singleness. It's worth the wait.
Yes. Just talk about that. Just take us there and talk about.
So the word wait, the book is really predicated on the foundation of the word wait. And it took me some time to really think through what this word wait will mean. So, after, really sitting down and thinking through that word, I decided, you know what, this word wait, it holds a lot of weight. And I really wanted to emphasize on that. So when we talk about the W, we're talking about wisdom and how important it is to seek wisdom. So within the book, I talk a lot about wisdom, how you seek wisdom, and what did I do as a single person, seeking wisdom. The A is about asking. Keep asking because he said it in his word that we should continue asking, we should continue seeking, and we should continue knocking. So the A is all about asking. Then when it comes to the I, it's all about intentional and being intentional. Because what I've found in my personal walk, as well as speaking to others, we're not intentional about what it is we want. We nibble around the edges of our desires and we are scared to say, we desire marriage or we desire a serious relationship because for whatever reason, we think it might rock the boat. So we're not intentional. We give up ourselves, we lose ourselves and not being intentional about what it is we want. So that I is all about being intentional. And the T is all about timing. And when we talk about timing, it's not in Vanessa's timing, it's not in Janice's timing, it's not in society's time on when we think things should happen, but it's all in God's timing. And I think once we settle into that, knowing that when the time is right, God will deliver on his promises. And a lot of people have said to me, well, Vanessa, suppose it never happens. And that could be a reality. I don't think every single person is going to get married. But I think if God put the desire on your heart, that it would come true. And, if it doesn't, I tell people there's nothing wrong in waiting well.
Mm-hmm. You said that good.
That's right. There's nothing wrong in waiting well.
Mm. Mm. So how long have you where you can really say, well, I've been waiting this long? Because some people might have 5 years ago, like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready for to be married. I desire a husband. Have the waiting for you been long?
Well, I started to write this book when I was in 2020.
2020.
And I was about to turn 50 that year. And it took me 4 years to write this book.
Mm-hmm.
Writing this book, I started in January of 2020. And I remember going into that year, just being very pensive and just thinking about all the amazing stuff that's going to be happening in 2020. I had an amazing trip planned to Bali to celebrate my 50th birthday. But little do we know what happened in 2020. So I don't need to rehash that. But, as I was sitting there and being pensive and really thinking about, oh my God, the future, the past, like, wow, I am going to be 50. And there I was, single as a Pringle with zero prospects inside, like zero. I wasn't dating anyone. I wasn't, there was nothing. There was nothing happening. And, I can say I look back and it had been quite some time since I was in a serious relationship that I thought could have progressed. So it had been a really long time, maybe almost 8, 10 years.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, since I had really been in a serious relationship where I thought, well, okay, this might be something that would lead to something more serious that didn't materialize. And I have never been married and I do not have any children. So those are, the type of things that society tends to
Yes.
gauge a woman on. Because I know going out on dates, people will ask, like, why aren't you married? You know? And then I will be like, I haven't met the person yet, or the
Right.
person I haven't met me yet.
Yeah.
It's not God's time for me to get
Mhm.
married. And then they will go like, well, do you have children? And I would say, no, I don't have any children. And then they were like, what's wrong with you? You get that question all the
Mhm.
time. It's like,
I
what's
definitely, I definitely hear
wrong
people
with
say, I
you?
definitely hear people say that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it was a decision that I made very early on that I didn't want to have children as a single person. I
Right.
really wanted to be married
Mhm.
in order to start a family, to have children. And it just didn't happen. And I stuck to that.
Right.
And there is no regrets that I don't have any children because I truly believe that it doesn't have to be biological. I have so many godchildren, nieces, and nephews that really fill the gap.
Right.
That there isn't any like, I don't feel like I missed out on something
Right. Right.
not
Right.
having a child.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. And you're saying that you're 50, you're single, and it's still worth the wait
Yes.
because sometimes people get impatient,
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and like you say, they let that what people society put on them to think, okay, well, maybe this person is for me. And they see all these red flags. I see
Mm-hmm.
this all the time. They see all these red flags, they settle, they get married, and then those red flags that was there all the time is a big issue. Now you
Mm-hmm.
want a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want a divorce, but you
Mm-hmm.
felt the pressure of the world, of society, putting
Yeah.
this stigma on you that,
Mm-hmm.
girl, what you waiting on? What's the problem? What you waiting on? You're not settling.
That's right.
And
I
then
truly believe that.
exactly. And then you believe God. God knows who He has for you. He knows who He has for you. He's preparing him and He's preparing you. And when that season, that time comes, I just believe without a shadow. I just believe without a shadow of doubt. I had this young lady. I think they've been married 6 months. And
Mm-hmm.
we had the conversation before, I think she's 48. We had the conversation before, and she just kept saying, I'm not selling. I don't care. I don't care. And have been in relationship where she was like, okay, this is it. I know this is it. This is him. And it didn't work out. It didn't work out. You stay in a relationship, then you learn the person. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
no. And then you look back and you're like, Lord, I thank you
Thank
that
you,
you
Jesus.
showed me. Thank
Yes.
you that you showed me that I didn't just
Yes.
pledge.
Yes.
And she was like, God showed her, God showed him. And they didn't date a long time. And then people they dated 3 months. before he proposed to, and then I think it was 6 months later before they got married. But people were saying, "You don't know him. You just," and she was just saying how when God connection, that that divine connection,
Yes,
it
yes,
that
yes,
divine connection, when
yes,
it's that divine connection, you don't have to second guess it. You
absolutely.
don't have to second guess. And the thing about it, God knows the desires of our heart.
Yes.
He knows what we desire. He knows what
Mm-hmm,
he
mm-hmm.
knows what we desire. What would you say to the single lady out there that's really struggling? They're struggling. She's not where you are, where you waiting and you realize it's worth the waiting, and you know it's not, it's gonna be in his season. You know this, but she's like, I done said all that. I don't believe God for all that. And I just been waiting, 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 waiting. What would you say to that person that, what, I'm really tired of waiting?
You know what?
Can you
We
say,
have, yes, we have been there, and I don't want, folks to discount the fact that people do get lonely. They do want to be in communion. I don't think that God made us to be alone.
Mhm.
And it's real. And especially as women you've done the schooling right, you have waited right, you go to church, you read you do everything, you check all the boxes. But for some reason, that thing that you heart desire, which is marriage, is not happening. I just want to, let folks know, let other women know that they're not alone. And I think a lot of times single women feel like they're the only one who's going through this journey. And it is so hard. And I think we get to the point where, there might be desperation. And when people get desperate, then you start discounting yourself. And when you start discounting yourself, that means that your worth is now less. You might find yourself on the sales rack,
Mhm.
So now
Yeah.
people who may not could afford you because you were worth the wait can now, because now you have just discounted yourself.
Wow.
I'm just
That is so
asking
powerful.
folks to hang in there. It might be long, it might be arduous, it might be hard, but just hold on. And I think surrendering, I think the day I decided that I'm just going to surrender everything to God and just let Him have His way with me, the anxiousness is gone. You're not thinking, you're not waking up and thinking, oh my God, when is this going to happen? It start thanking God in advance for your husband, and not just begging and pleading, because he knows what you need. And even he says to ask, sometimes you just have to be in a state of thanksgiving.
Mm.
So it's understandable, it's real, but there are other folks who are going through it. Get yourself in community with people who are married so you can see what a godly relationship is like, so that when it comes that you can identify it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. I hope that will give women hope and trust in God and waiting on God. And I say this all the time, and I sincerely mean it. I am constantly praying for single women, those that are desiring husband, those that are in their season of waiting, to not give up and to be busy about the things of God while you waiting. Don't just sit on the curb and just waiting on him to pass by. Get your finances in order.
Yes, yes,
Love on yourself. Love
yes,
yourself. L- uh, Enjoy your own company by yourself, your solo company. Um, Learn how to cook. Learn how to say, look, I'm gonna learn a new recipe. I need to learn a couple of new recipes. So my husband come, I have this meal planning out, and learn to communicate, because when you've been single a long time and it's just it is an adjustment being married.
Yeah,
It's an
so
adjustment to
true.
another person. So you have to be ready for that adjustment,
Yes.
because you're not just considering yourself. Um, if I was getting ready to leave, and go eat dinner with my friend or something, and we was gonna meet up in next 2 hours or whatever, guess what? I'll be, honey, such and such, and I, Vanessa and I, we're gonna go to dinner in about 2 hours. You okay? You good? You got something good? You're making sure you're taking care. Where
Mhm.
you saying you're gonna meet me in 2 hours, guess what? You gonna meet me in 2 hours. You ain't asking nobody about
That's
nothing.
right.
Do they
That
need
is so
anything?
true.
So you have to be ready to adjust to
Mhm.
those things. And just every day, get up, single ladies. Get up and just thank God for your husband. Look yourself in the mirror and say, "Oh, yeah, I'm waiting on my husband. I'm waiting. It's gonna be all worth it. It's gonna be all keep
Yes.
yourself looking good, fix yourself up, um, enjoy your solo journey." And like I said, the first step is loving yourself, because
Mhm.
when you're 50 and you're going into marriage at 50, it's not time to learn how to communicate. You have to need to have these things. You know what? You need to have those.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, so you're right, because in the book, there's a chapter that I call "What Do You Bring to the Table?"
Table. I saw that.
And yeah, it's about like, I remember having this conversation with my sister. She's been married for or over 25 years or 27 years. And she said, "You want to get married? What do you bring to the table?" And, this was the conversation we had way back.
Mhm.
So I started listing off, I have my degrees, I have a car, I have a house, I can cook, I can wash. And I'm checking off the list. And, she looked at me and I'm looking at her and she was like, "Girl, you ain't ready yet." I'm like, "What?" She was
You was
like,
like,
she
what's wrong with my list?
I'm like, "What's wrong with my list? I'm good." She was like, "Mm-mm." She said, "Everything you listed there, a man can pay for those things to get that stuff done. Okay. And tell me, have men ever walk up to you and ask you, what's your highest level of schooling, or do you have a degree?" I'm like, "No." She said, "Men are looking for much more than that. Do you bring peace to the relationship? Are you a good communicator?
Communicator.
Are you a good problem solver? Are you a good negotiator?" These are some of the intangible skills that you need as a wife. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that you need to be working on now. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to say, if you want a peaceful relationship, you have to be able to have peace with
With
yourself.
yourself.
That's right. Be able to speak well, communicate, because that's the number one thing that
Yeah.
I hear a lot of married women say, that communication is the
The
key
key.
after that strong foundation as Christians.
Yes.
Know? And, in writing this book, I really wanted to know what other single women as well as married women were thinking. So I sent out a survey to ask single women, what are you doing in your season of singleness? How are you preparing for your mate when he comes? What are you dating? How are you dating? What is the dating scene like? And the responses that I got was heartbreaking, because women has given up on love. A lot of women have given up on love for many reasons, and the main one is that they've been brokenhearted so
Many
many
times.
times. And it's like a bankruptcy. You have to start from scratch every time a relationship ends. You have
Wow.
to get yourself together and start over. And sometimes women do not have the energy, they do not have the wherewithal to start over and over and over again. So
Yeah.
they have just like given up. They've thrown in the towel. It's like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm.
And then I also women. And for the single women, we had 121 women responding to the survey and just pouring out their hearts. And
Wow.
then for the married women, I remember speaking to married women and they would say, Vanessa, marriage is work. That would be the
Yes.
thing that they will say. They say, marriage is work. So I designed this survey and I said, okay, if marriage is work, how do I prepare for the job?
Mhm.
And I sent it out, and 44 women responded. They talked about how they knew that person was the one, how they meld their life together, like how they brought two households together. How do they keep romance alive? What is the one thing that really holds their marriage together? And then I also asked, the final question that I asked was, would you marry this person again?
Yeah.
And some people said yes, and quite a few people said
Mm.
no. And what I gathered from this information that people were sharing with me is that a lot of women marry the potential.
Mhm.
They married the hope that this
Yes.
person
Person will
would
be.
become that person,
Yes. Yes.
as opposed to the person who's sitting or standing in front
Right.
of them at the moment. And the thing I walked away from looking at all those surveys and speaking to married women is that if you have to ask yourself on your wedding day, if this person does not change from the person you are marrying right now,
Mhm.
are you willing to go the journey with them?
Mhm. Very
And if
good.
the answer isn't yes, you need to rethink it, because there's no guarantee that that person will change.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Wow. I love the survey that you did.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's
It was eye opening. It was eye opening. I did not realize how hurt so many women are. And, as Christian, especially women who are Christian, it's very difficult because we live in a society where there's a lot of Netflix and chill, and people are not really invest in, serious relationship.
Mhm.
Sex is so easy and
Right.
out there, and people
Right.
have this hookup culture.
Right.
But for women who truly believe in waiting,
Right.
not only waiting for marriage, but waiting until marriage to have
Right.
sex, it
Right.
becomes very difficult, because the person who you are dating was like, well, if you wouldn't do it, deuces, somebody else will.
Right. Right.
So you find that it's very challenging in as a single person in the dating arena.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I hear that a lot. A lot.
Mhm.
But I know that God sees your heart, God
Yeah.
sees your waiting, and he knows he already know who he is.
Hmm. It's true.
He already
So
know
true.
who he is. That is absolutely I just appreciate you so much, Vanessa. I'm glad that you found me and felt that this platform had something that you can offer, which I definitely say because that's my thing on my plat. It's all about women, and it's
Hmm.
women that and I said majoring because
Majoring.
we're learning. Even if you're
Yes. Yes.
single,
Yes.
you're still majoring in marriage. If you're married,
Mhm.
you're still majoring. And
Yes.
it's for married women that no longer want a just want to survive in marriage because
One
a
of
lot of
time.
people
Yeah.
have the number of years under their belts. But do you have a thriving marriage, a marriage that's thriving, a marriage that God is pleased with? And that's what this platform is about: inspiring married women to not just settle for I'm married and I'm just married and that's it. There's no communication. You do your thing, I do my thing. On paper, we married. The marriage is not thriving. And then
Right.
it's also for those who are engaged. The woman that's engaged, which that's my heart, I guess, because I was such a young bride. I was such a young bride. And that's my heart. Those women that are engaged and getting ready to get married, that want to prepare for their marriage before they prepare for the big wedding day. They're engaged, they're going to get married, but their main focus is this wedding is one day.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to build a lifetime relationship. So it's to help them to prepare and let them know that marriage is work. It is work. But the two of you have to be willing to put in the work to make marriage work. So I encourage those that are engaged to prepare for their marriage. Don't focus all on who gonna be in the wedding, how much money you gonna spend, how much did prepare for being a wife. Because
Yes.
when that marriage after that wedding day over, and if you go on a honeymoon and you come back and those bills start coming in the mail, you go back to work, your career, all those things can be challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then those encouraging women, though, like you, those that are single, that are in their seasonal waiting to enjoy their singleness while they wait, and
That's
know
right.
that God knows their the desires of their heart. And you asked him, you know what you're looking for. So now just thank him every day for him. Lord, I thank you for my husband. I'm riding down the road. Lord, I'm thank you for my husband. I wonder, do he see me? Do he know who I am? Lord, I just start thanking him, just thanking. And I admire women that have vowed to save themselves to marriage, because a lot of them don't realize the soul ties that you have in and out of these relationships, and you having sex, but you saying you waiting on your husband.
Oh, I know that's the part about waiting well. When you talk about waiting well, what does that look like?
Yeah,
And that mentioned that's one of them. And waiting, as I tell folks, wait is a verb. It's not just sitting there and doing nothing. Do the things that bring you joy. Live a joyful life. Take care of yourself. Travel. Go places,
yeah,
have dates on your own. I have my solo dates every month where I take myself out. I do stuff for me because there's nothing worse than if you're thinking, okay, when that person come, I'm going to travel. Suppose he doesn't like traveling,
right.
So you really have to do the things that bring you joy. And I truly believe sometimes it could be doing the things that bring you joy that you find or that person find you.
Yeah,
And hopefully you're doing something that you both enjoy. So right off the bat, you start with something in common. So I just want to let folks know, let other women know that just don't sit around and think about it or just
yeah,
mope about it.
yes.
Really try to live your best life
Life.
now.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that you say that you do that solo dating. You say once a month.
Once a month. Yes, yes.
You take yourself, you dress yourself up, and you look good, and
Dress
you take.
up. Yes.
I
And
just love that.
I go out to restaurants that are nice, top class restaurant that someone will take me out on a date. And it's so funny because I will call, I'll make a reservation, and then I'll show up and they will still go, "You're waiting for someone?" I'm like, "No, it's just me."
I love that.
Yes, and I was very clear. I would go to some place I had not gone before. I would talk to someone once I get there. I don't care who it is, but I'll strike up a conversation. It could be on my way there. It could be while I'm there, while I'm coming back from there. I will not, under any circumstance, invite anyone with me on my date. It's a solo date, and I will journal about my experience once I am done date, once my date is over. So those
Right.
are the rules of the date, and I try my best to do that once a month.
That is absolutely awesome. You ready, Vanessa? You ready? I can't wait.
I I have friends who are like, she was like, I can't do that, Vanessa. Like, go and sit by yourself. I'm like, yeah, there's nothing. I mean, if you can't enjoy your own company, how are you going to enjoy the company? Or why should you bring somebody in a relationship with you and you're not even enjoying your own
Your
company?
own self. Wow.
Yeah.
That is so
I think that
awesome.
is so important.
That
I'd love to run through some of the chapters in the book so
okay.
folks get an idea of
Okay.
what it's all about. So the book has 12 chapters. As I said, it's delayed, not denied. The journey of singleness, it's worth the wait. And I chronicle my journey as a single woman. And I truly believe that God, it was like a download. It was like a divine directive that said, chronicle your journey as a single woman up to now. And I knew off the bat that it wasn't around blaming, it wasn't around naming, and it wasn't around shaming anyone. It was my truth, and I was about to just write.
Right.
And, as I tell folks, if I was a married person, I would not have written this book, and I
Right.
would not have been such a blessing to so many people. So I talk about, how it all began, and, the messages that I got from the women in my life, my mom, my aunties, my godmother. And the message that I got as a young woman, it was about, you go to school, learn your lesson. You don't need a man to support you. You can do that all by yourself. This was the narrative that was consistently thrown at me as a
Mhm.
young girl growing up in the Caribbean. And I really don't think that my parents and my mom, who was a single mom, and my godmother, the women in my life, they were not being facetious. They were not being bad women. They were just trying to save me from some of the hurts that they went
Mhm.
through as women, having to
Exactly.
raise children alone. The men were not in the home, and they didn't want that for me. They didn't want that for none of the young ladies.
Right.
So they were very, very, very clear about going to school, getting an education so that you can take care of yourself.
Yes.
So let me tell you something, Janice. I went off to school, especially my college years, like my life depended on it. My ticket, my education was my golden ticket
Mm.
because I was going to get a degree. My mom didn't have a college degree. Most of my aunties, my godparents, I didn't have that. So
Right.
I was going to show them that I was going to make them proud. And during that time, I did not date. I was just like focused because
Focus.
I didn't want to get derailed.
Right.
And it was also coming from an experience that I had when I was younger, like in high school, where I had a high school boyfriend and I was so in love that I failed my classes. And I remember my mom telling me that I cannot serve two masters. So I had to make a choice. And
Right.
that kept, it was playing in my ear as I continued through my college education, where I just focused on my education,
Mm.
and, eventually that high school sweetheart, that relationship ended. But, it taught me something about myself. And that's that whole concept of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And I really had to forgive myself, forgive him, so that I could emerge as a a sane person,
Right.
and knowing that forgiveness is not about the other person,
Right.
but forgiveness was for me to free
Yeah.
myself of whatever had happened in the past so that I could journey into adulthood as a whole person.
Yes.
So I go through the book, I talk about that, and I talk about, in having adult relationships, I realized that there were times where people, there were infractions in relationship, and it was just, I'm sorry, but there was no really a chance to really sit down and talk about like what transpired here. Why did you do that? Would you do that again? I hope you won't do that again. But it was just, I'm sorry. It was like the kindergarten
Right.
strategy of forgiveness.
Right.
When you're young and your mom say, tell your sister sorry or tell your brother
Right.
sorry.
Right.
And you just say sorry and then
Sorry.
that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we move into adulthood and we carry those same strategies into our relationship
Yes.
where we hurt people and we simply say sorry and think that's it. And then not only do we accept that type of behavior, we never really step back and ask ourselves, why am I tolerating these
Right.
types of behaviors?
Right.
So I had to do a lot of work in that area to really forgive myself for allowing people to treat me unwell and just to forgive them and move on with my life.
Yes.
So I also talk about the whole concept about the invisible clock, because as you get to a certain age,
Right.
that's something that, people talk about when you're going to have a baby. And you go like, well, I don't want to have a baby by myself. They're like, oh, girl, just have a child.
Right. Right.
They will say that all the time. And it was just something that just did not resonate with me. And in the book, I also talk about, juggling the boy is one of the chapter where, everyone wanted to send me on a blind date. Everyone wanted me to, set me up with a brother, an uncle, a cousin, a
Right.
friend. So I had those experiences, but it was very hard for me because I am coming from a culture in the Caribbean where we don't date. Dating is not a part of our culture. The culture in which I was raised, someone pick you and then you're with them for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Women don't choose. Most women do not choose. They are picked and then that's it.
And they're picked by
They're picked by a guy. Like a guy would see you
he picked
and
you.
they might like you and they might just say, hey, I like you, Vanessa. They'll start talking to you. And, next thing you know, you're going out. Next thing you know, they're on your veranda, your porch, you're talking. And next thing you know, you're an item. Because what we don't do in our culture is that we cannot be seen with Tom this Friday, Harry next Friday, Peter the following Friday. You don't do that in our society. That is frowned upon. That is like people will call you out of your name. You do not date in the society where I was raised.
Wow.
When I left that society and people talk about dating, it was foreign to me. But I decided that I'm going to date. I'm in a new culture. I'm in Rome. I do as the Romans do. And through that process, I found out a lot of things about myself. I found out a lot of things that I didn't like about certain men. I found out that my voice, that I had to speak up for what it is I want. I found out that I had to ask the right questions, because if you don't ask the right questions, you will not get the right answers. And as a woman who was in the dating arena, because I was not I didn't come from a culture where you were for, you didn't come for it, you're more reserved.
Right.
You cook up all this thing in your head about what the relationship is, what you think it might be. You don't ask the right questions. And then you are left with murky data. And then you're thinking you're in a relationship, but you're not really in a relationship because the person is not really thinking that you're in a relationship with them. So by me dating, I clearly understand that I needed to ask the question, what is your intention?
Mm-hmm.
Even though you might be showing me or pouring all this attention onto me, I have to be clear about what it is your intentions are.
Mm-hmm.
So as I got older, I am more open. I'm asking the question. I mean, not on the first or the second date,
Right,
but if I
right.
see that it's moving, I'm asking, what is your intention? What are your desires? And if you're not on the same page, then you're just wasting my time.
Right.
And especially for older women like me, your late 40s, your 50, early 50s, mid 50s, or even older, you are very clear about your standards and your values.
Mm-hmm.
So now dating becomes a bit more difficult
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
when you are younger, you might, someone asks
Right.
you, you might just go out. But
Right.
now you're older, it's like, listen, there's more years behind me than there is in front of me, and I don't have no time to waste. So you're able to weed those people out in a much shorter period of time.
Yes.
You don't have any time to waste.
Yes.
So I talk about that in the book, and I talk about, values and boundaries and how so important to have values, how it's so important to have boundaries, and don't wait until you're in a relationship or in the thick of things to develop your boundaries, but make sure that you're entering a relationship stating what those boundaries are so that the person who you're in relationship with can respect you and you can respect them.
Them. Right.
Because if you had no boundaries and you're allowing someone to do whatever or say whatever to you, and then 3 weeks later you're like, okay, you can't do this anymore, or you can't say this anymore, they'll be like, well, we've been kicking it all along and it was not a problem. All of a sudden it is. So as you get older, it's so important to have boundaries, because
Yeah.
as a young person, I didn't know what boundaries were. And they were basically like lying in the sand. And as the water came up, it just washed those boundaries away. So it's very important to have those boundaries when you're in relationship. And, we talked about, what you bring to the table. That's a chapter that's in the book. Very important about understanding who you are. And I know when we are younger, we like, oh, we as I say, we need a 666,
Yeah.
6 feet, 6 figures, six pack, you don't realize like you're chasing the devil with those 666 numbers, but you're into this thing, and then you realize like those things are fleeting. And you realize now you're looking for someone who is God-fearing, someone who's kind, someone who's consistent, someone who loves you like they love God, who love God more than they love you.
Right.
These are things now that you are looking for, because
Mhm.
those six
Right.
things that you think that were amazing, they're not,
They're not. Right.
because that 6 feet person might be, 6 decades of stress,
Yes.
And then finally, I wrapped up the book talking about menopause, because I would have been a woman over 50 who's going through menopause not to talk about it because it's challenging
Right.
as a person who's dating and going through menopause. Because I remember having a dating experience, and we're having dinner, and it just started. The heat just started bubbling up. It's like a silent volcano that was just bubbling up inside of me. And you're just sitting there, and any minute now, the beads of sweat were just gonna pop out, and the streams of water will just start running down your face. And the person across the table is just looking at you like, what is going on? Are you okay? Are you about to faint? And you're sitting there with your little handy dandy fan and your paper, and you're tapping, and you're trying to like, oh Lord, let this all go away. And these are the things that are reality.
Reality.
reality that we
Yes.
have to deal with as women,
Yes.
and be able to have those conversations, because as soon as those hot flashes come, they just go away and you're
Right.
back to normal again.
Normal.
And someone who's sitting across the table from you have no idea what
What's
just
going on?
transpired. Yeah. So be able to have those conversations, so those are the things that are covered in the book. I also have a prayer in the book that really asks God to just, let me step out of the way and let him be in charge.
Right.
And so that I could, be able to recognize when he sent that right person, and be able to identify those counterfeits and be able to weed them out, so that I could find and be with the person that he has designed
Fine. Or
specially for me. And I want other women to really believe that with all their heart, that
yes.
God is the
Yes.
best matchmaker and he's working on the back end doing
Yes.
something beautiful.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. That is beautiful. I'm sure the listeners have so many takeaways and being encouraged as well. Because, like you say, a lot of times you feel like you're the only one going through it. So
Mm-hmm.
to hear your story, I'm sure that it's very inspiring and encouraging to other women. Again, I want to say thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for reaching out to me. I appreciate you. We will stay in contact, and this episode will come out on Wednesday. That's the July the
17.
17th. The 17th.
Yeah.
Yeah, the day
Yeah.
before. Yeah,
Yes.
July the 17th. So, ladies, you all go and have an amazing day. And as I always say, try to leave a person better than you found them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Women Majoring in Marriage podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to like, subscribe, leave a review, or comment. All that good stuff that helps other folks like you find the podcast. Please come back every month on the second and fourth Wednesday for new episodes. You can also find Janice on our website, www.janicevance.com, where you can order her book, Women Majoring in Marriage. And for more fun content, be sure to check out our Facebook group at Women Majoring in Their Marriage. Also, if you have any questions or would like to reach out, feel free to send us an email at themarriagemajor@gmail.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.